Hi, everybody. Jen Berbas with the Berbas Group. We're going to talk about the City of Austin real estate numbers for April. Data that is interesting for this month. Total sales are down 14%. Under contract and pending is down only 2.8%. You're going to see this theme over and over again. There seems to be some latent demand that's just kind of saying steady state, which we're really happy to see. Because in other news, there is a 21% increase in listings from last year. I'm going to show you that in our chart of the data that we collect internally week to week. Withdraws and expired is only up 4%. That's not a really big change. But months of inventory, we have gone from 4.2 months of inventory last year to 6 months of inventory. And this is Austin citywide. What you'll notice is this is really different from neighborhood to neighborhood. I'm going to show you a couple of charts here. We're going to look at Tarrytown. We're just going to show you how we've been diving into different neighborhoods to see the inventory in that area. Downtown condos, for example, have tons and tons of inventory, something like 10 months of inventory. Right, that's really different than the Austin citywide is 6 months. Circle C has hardly any inventory. They have 1 month of inventory. So it's really important to look specifically at that area that you are trying to transact in when the time comes. So this is the data that we're talking about. And this is what I mean by the speed of the direction of change in the market. We are at 2524 active properties, and we always like to use the same geographical area. So we're always measuring the market with the same ruler. And this is higher than last year. Last year, our peak was 2,400. Right now, we're at 2,528. I expect that we're going to get to 26, 2,700 pretty easily here. We might even peak at 2,800. I'm just kind of curious where we're going to top out at. But what I think is more interesting is we've gone up 20% in inventory in this area in the last 6 weeks. So when we're talking to sellers and we're saying, let's get you on the market because at least we know the current market and we don't know, it seems like it's getting less favorable to sellers. I'm not going to say worse because that sounds a little inflammatory and pejorative, but it's definitely getting less favorable to sellers the more options there are in the market, right? You want as few options on the market as possible when you go to sell your house. You want to be the only house in your neighborhood on the market. This is what we're talking about, this orange line. This is pending in the last 30 days. It's actually remarkably stable and similar to last year. The peak of last year was like 657, 658 over here. And if you can see my mouse, and this year we're at 625. We're actually the highest this last week than we've been all year. So there's still some decent strength to the market that we're really happy to see. Not too much exciting happening in the average or median sold price. We're being pretty stable over the course of the last year. This is our average. Our total sales are down about 14% from April of last year. It's kind of what we talked about earlier. Pending units, strong, like we said, and then new listings up quite a bit from last year. This is that 20% number. We're seeing those up 20%. So jobs, indeed, job postings for Austin are increasing a little bit. That's great news for us. It's no longer declining. It was a pretty steady rate of decline for a while. And so hopefully we're starting to see some light at the end of the tunnel here with the technology jobs in Austin. Everything really comes back to interest rates for the most part. And we were hoping that we would get inflation under control this year, just in broad economic terms, and that we would see a decrease in interest rates because bonds would get stronger, or we just haven't seen that. When the stock market sold off, bonds also sold off. Bonds don't like uncertainty, and then interest rates actually went up instead of going. It's really easy to say, to paint Austin with a big broad brush and say months of inventory is going up and sales are going down across the city, but that wouldn't be true, right? Every single neighborhood, it's really crazy to me how distinct the behavior is in every single neighborhood. So I pulled this report together for Tarrytown. What we're finding really interesting is, yes, the supply is higher than last year, right? There's no doubt about that. But the demand was also much higher in March than it was last year. You can see that we had about 12 homes go under contract last year in March, and this year it was more like 15. It's a pretty big difference. And then you also see the months of inventory in Tarrytown has changed pretty dramatically. It was 8 months of inventory last year, and it's gone down to 6.5 months of inventory this year. So you can't paint the whole Austin area with one brushstroke. It's just really important to dig into the data at this level. And here's where we're talking about months of inventory. April of 2024, it was 8 months. And this year, April of 2025, we went down to 6.5 months. Let us know if there's anything we can do to help. We're always around.